I think Adam Flagger fell in part
Yes.
of that. He took over the game the last 5 minutes in a way that I haven't really seen in a while. We forced him off the three-point line because he was so hot first half, and then he started driving the last 5 minutes of the second half and then started making the appropriate reads, and it became very hard to handle.
You know, Baylor got a lot from Adam Flagler today, 28 points, including 20 in the second half. L.J. Cryer was another wing for them.
Yes.
They really got going early, 23 points in the game. I think 15 of those were in the first half. So you saw Baylor really kind of figure out who they had going and kept feeding them the ball consistently throughout each half to help them. They combined for 51 points, which is pretty ridiculous for two guys, especially when you think about being on the road in Big 12 play. But TCU had pretty balanced scoring as well. 16 points from Damian Baugh, who recorded his second double-double of the year. He had 10 assists and 7 rebounds as well. Emmanuel Miller with 10 points for the Frogs. Jacoby Coles, who you said needed to have a big day, had 15 points and 5 rebounds for TCU as well. Micah Peavy with 9 points and 5 boards. But when it came down to it in those final few minutes, TCU's offense stalled out. And we talked about how that couldn't happen today, and it did. What did you see, Amric, that really caused kind of the breakdown in those final few minutes for TCU?
I think moving the ball around and as far as attacking off the penetration and facilitating off the penetration stopped. We did a really good job within the first, second half of feeding the ball down low and cutting off that. People not ball watching, cutting as soon as they pass it, and everybody looking to pass it to somebody that's open. We kind of stopped that, and they kind of honed in on Baugh and forced him into a spot where he has to be a mid-range player. And like I said in the beginning of the show, that's one thing I think he needs to work on. He's either a three-point shooter or he's all the way to the goal. When he's in that mid-range area, he struggles a little bit. But what a game by him today.
Yes.
It's amazing. He was flirting with a triple-double.
He really was. And you know, we're going to remember the last shot he took, which probably wasn't the best option that they would have had on that final set. Still had a decent look at it, though. But he scored 6 points in the final 31 seconds.
Right.
You know, when you think about what the kind of the storyline of this game in the second half, Baylor goes on a 15-2 run from about the 7.5 minute mark all the way down to under 4 minutes left in the game. They take the lead 61-58 after TCU had led pretty much the entire second half to that point. And it felt like Baylor had all of the momentum. They had their entire roster available to them. Their fans were getting pretty loud in Schollmaier Arena. They had a good showing from their fan base today as well. And then in the final minute, Damian Baugh does what he has done so many times. He gets to the rim. He gets some layups. He gets to the free throw line.
Yes.
He plays solid defense. But that final shot, he just couldn't hit it tonight.
And you can't put it all on him with that shot. You know, and when I say he's not a mid-range player, I'm not referring to that shot in a whole. But I think that that's a next evolution to his game. But also the way that he was able to stay poised, and his IQ is so strong. That's another reason why I love his game. His IQ is so strong to know to attack within the last 15, 12 minutes and not fire up a three. We got time.
Right.
You know, this is how we draw the game out. This is how we win close ones. He's already there mentally. So, I mean, it's very impressive, the game that I watched by him today.
He got some help from his teammates, too. Shahade Wells has that rebound on his missed free throw, which was so huge. Ball hits the mid-range jump shot on that time down the court to cut the lead cut the deficit to 2. But when you think about where TCU basketball is right now, 3-game losing streak, lost 4 out of their last 5, and now they go on the road to Iowa State. Iowa State plays later today, but right now they're the only team remaining in the Big 12 that's undefeated at home. Right. That's a really big challenge.
Yes.
You might be getting Mike and Eddie back, but you're not sure yet. How does this team turn the ship around in with the possibility of Mike being absent for long?
Man, the Big 12's tough. Does it ever get easier?
No.
Do we ever get a gimme game? I don't think there's any of those in the Big 12. But we go on the road and we got another a tough opponent. But I think that whether we get the pieces back or not, I think the foundation that we laid today, even though we didn't come up with the result, was a positive. Yeah. We rebounded the ball really well. We stopped key players as far as, I know we let Adam Flagler get off a little bit second half, but we stopped their other people from scoring. And we played solid defense. We just didn't, the results weren't there today.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Keontae George, the freshman we talked about in pregame, only had 4 points today on 2 of 8 shooting.
Great defense.
Micah Peavy did incredible defending him today, as well as Chuck O'Bannon and Damian Ball. They all took turns defending him today. Flo Thamba, they didn't allow him to get into a rhythm. Baylor's big man. They got him into some foul trouble early. Xavier Cork showed some of those post moves we talked about in pregame to give Thamba some trouble early and get him on the bench. But, I think the biggest takeaway for me from this basketball game is that there is depth on this team that can have success. They maybe just don't have the experience to force that success in critical moments, right? Like they do when they have Mike Miles on the court, when they have Eddie Lampkin on the court. Shahade Wells is a guy who's got another year of eligibility. Damian Ball is a guy the coaching staff wants back next year, even though he's might test the NBA waters. So there's some experience on this team that getting games like this under their belt, even though it sucks in the moment, is good for the long run because they can come out next time and say, I've been in this moment before, I know how to handle it now.
Yeah, it's different. It's different when you've been there. You're not hitting the panic button.
Right.
You know how situations go. Okay, it's the last 2 minutes of the game. We're down by 2. I know what I need to do. I know the crowd's going to be into it. I know who to bring along with me as far as the other players to make sure that they're engaged within a game. Yeah. And that's what I like watching Ball up close because he does all that. Mike Miles does it too. And he's a really great scorer, but I like to see how other players react. And Ball does a great job with this team. That's not the results today.
Yeah, a couple of stats to think about too. TCU got to the 32 rebound mark coming into today.
Yes,
they were 15-1 in games where they pulled down at least 32 rebounds.
Yes.
Like you said, they played really well on the rebounding tonight. Damian Ball led the way with 7 boards, which is rather unusual when a guard leads the way, but that's good to see that he was crashing the boards. Peavy with 5, Jacoby Coles with 5, Xavier Cork, though, just with 1. 9 points, 1 rebound tonight. What did you see from him that you liked, and what did you see that maybe he can grow, how he can grow?
I think stepping into this role, too, I think he has to learn time and space when he receives the ball. So time and space when he's down there, he's got a guy sealed and he's got good position, but then he tries to make an extra dribble, which allows the defense to collapse, and that's why he loses the ball out of bounds or it gets stripped. So he's got to have quicker moves when he's down low as far as keeping the ball high as soon as he receives the pass and having quick finishes. I think, honestly, he has a wide variety of moves that are good.
Yeah.
It's just when to display them. I think is the question.
Well, let's go back to that final minute for just a moment here. TCU is down 68-66. They've just made a basket. Damian Ball hits a jump shot to bring them to within 2. And it looked like on the inbounds play that Chuck O'Bannon had a clean steal and was right at the rim and he scored a basket. But the ref called a foul. From your perspective, because I know you were sitting down there on Radio Row, what did you see on that play?
I instantly said that was just a premeditated call by the referee. So the referee knows that we are in a dire need to foul. He's already got that in his mind. He knows that the clock is running down. I think that he just premeditated and, made a call that shouldn't have happened instead of looking at exactly the play that was in front of him, instead of predicting exactly what should happen. So I think he messed up right there. I think it honestly was not a foul, but that's the game. You got to go on, that happens.
That didn't change the outcome necessarily because TCU did score the next time down the court. They forced a turnover on the next inbounds play, which went to a review, and the refs got that call right.
Yeah.
It's just it ends up, when you have bad turnovers late, when you maybe lose a step defensively late, and the other team starts to pick up on the rebounding late. All of those things tend to compound into the result we got today.
Now you're in a position where these things can happen, like a call like that. I was a little disappointed that they didn't review it. I think as soon as the other call on Wells, or they thought it might have went out of Wells and then went out on Baylor, as soon as that happened, they reviewed. I know the time was a little bit down on that, but I would have liked to see them review the other one too, if possible. But
well, the Big 12 will probably not say anything about it because they typically don't in situations like that. But at the end of the day, one call doesn't make the game. Right? You mentioned that already. It doesn't make the game. And the reality is that TCU had a 10-point lead with about 7 minutes to go in this basketball game, and they could not close out down the stretch, which is disappointing. But at the same time, you live, you learn, and you've got to move on. Because like you said, this is a gauntlet in the Big 12, and Iowa State's not going to feel sorry for you when you get up there to Ames on Wednesday night. We're going to take a quick break here on the Frogs Today post-game show. When we come back, we're going to continue to break down TCU's loss to the Baylor Bears.
At Higginbotham, we put people first. So we simply start by listening to you.
Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham. Insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Texas-based Happy Water offers the best tasting sugar-free kids drink ever made. Happy Water comes in 4 delicious flavors that you can find at local retailers and on Amazon. Each pouch contains 0 grams of sugar, 0 calories, and 0% juice. Head to happydrinks.com for more information and to purchase Happy Water. That's HAPI Live happy, be happy, drink happy.
Welcome back into the Frogs Today pregame show. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Amric Fields, breaking down a 72-68 loss for the TCU Horned Frogs. They fall to the Baylor Bears on Saturday afternoon. 4 out of 5 losses now. But, you know, Amric, we were talking in the break about how this team for TCU looks a lot like this team for Baylor. They seem to be kind of reflective of each other. You talk about that a little bit more.
At times when I'm watching the game, it seems like we're almost looking into a mirror. We're not really consistent as far as our wins, too, as if we look at our schedule. Like, we're up and down a little bit. We got a lot of talent. I would say that we're deeper. We have deeper talent at different positions. So, but at times – they have a lot of guards that score the ball from them, and they're fast. They like to push it. It looks like we're looking at kind of the same team almost, the makeup-wise.
Yeah, you know, when you talk about that too, it's not an excuse that the Frogs were shorthanded today. You can't continue to rely on that in Mike Miles' absence. But the depth that Baylor had at the wing seemed to play a little bit of it would cause problems for the Frogs, frankly. Even though we did say we saw really good defense from Micah Peavy, we saw really good defense from Damian Baugh, that last 7 minutes of the game, there were some significant defensive breakdowns because we talked pregame about the Frogs need to defend the perimeter because Baylor's the best three-point shooting team in the conference. And they did that relatively well at points throughout the game, but it also looked like they started to overextend on the perimeter, and then you saw a lot of backdoor cuts, a lot of off-ball screens that created opportunities down near the rim for Baylor, especially late in that game.
Yeah. As a coach, you go crazy because you're like, defend the 3, close out. And then we start doing that, and then all of a sudden they get up layups. And then you're asking your big guys to rotate over quicker and to be there when they drive. So, I mean, it's a hard game, but that's why they're dangerous, and that's why they're good. That's why we're good as well. I think a lot of times that's why the game is was so intense sometimes because these guards go at each other with full speed. And it was relentless on the glass, too. I know that we won the glass battle, but when the ball was up, especially in the second half, everybody was going to the glass. Yeah.
It was kind of a melee down there, a mosh pit, if you will.
Yeah, it was very physical
for every single rebound. And that's a kind of an indicator of the character of both of these teams, though. You know, Jamie Dixon has harped time and time again, not only this season but in years past, about how important it is to crash the boards and rebound well. 5 guys rebound, 5 guys run is kind of their mantra this year, or all 5 rebound, all 5 run. And they did that today. They did it relatively well, but again, it's those last 4 minutes you've got to close out. Right, the Frogs did an incredible job of closing out in the first half, where they trailed for the majority of the first half, down by not too many at times, 4 to 6 points, but you score 7 points, you go on a 72 run to close out the first half with that big 3 from Jacoby Coles that gives you a little momentum going into the locker room. You would have liked to see that same kind of run at the end of this second half to come away with the victory.
Yeah, and I think another thing that stopped for the Frogs that I saw was they stopped getting the ball inside, not necessarily to score, but for interior passing. A lot of the times when they fed the ball inside, good things happened out of that. Ball was able to free up for a three. I think we had some cutters for easy layups.
Mm-hmm.
So now when the game is slowed down at the last 4 or 5 minute mark and we need easy buckets, it becomes extremely hard when we're not able to run. So we got to figure out a way to still get those easy buckets without forcing a three or, making a drive that we're incapable of making, just forcing something up. But I think we'll get there. I think we'll get there for sure.
I mean, 50 points in the paint for the Frogs tonight. That's an incredibly good number.
Yes.
14 fast break points isn't at their average for the year, but that's still a really good number to kind of point to and look at. How much of that comes from Damian Ball's court vision? He had 10 assists tonight. It's the second points and assists double-double of the season. We talked pregame about how he's TCU's assist leader. He's third in the Big 12 in assists per game, averaging a little over 5. Obviously doubled that up tonight. But how much of that part of TCU's game relies on Damian Ball getting the ball to the right spot at the right time?
His IQ is crazy at times. That's why I said I loved watching him in person, because there was a time actually when the spacing was terrible for the Frogs and he had the ball up top and he literally was telling people, putting people in places because the spacing was so bad. And this was at a crunch time. But he knew if the spacing was bad that he wouldn't get an easy shot or they wouldn't get points. So they ended up scoring on that possession, but his IQ is so good in setting people up. But I will say the willingness of the Frogs to pass. It seems like it's hard to find on a team sometimes. I don't know if you've seen other teams before, but, there's a lot of egos. There's a lot of attitude that plays into sports and getting points and all this other stuff. The willingness of the whole team to pass and move the ball around, I think, is astonishing.
16 assists on 28 made baskets tonight kind of proves your point. Right there, that they rely on each other to create space for one another. But another thing this team does really well, and we saw it at times tonight too, is off-ball screens. I want to talk about how good of an off-ball screener Emmanuel Miller is, because he consistently down in the paint. When he's not scoring, he scored 10 points tonight. He normally gets to around 10 points a game, but when he's not scoring, he is doing incredible work to get those wings free in the corner or out on the wing by the three-point line, and kind of just clogging things up.
And with that body, he should be. I saw him up close in person, and I mean, he's a big dude.
Yes.
He's built, and he's got a good frame. So I feel like when he knows that he's not incorporating the offense as far as scoring, he's setting good screens. He's rolling, he's finding people and stuff like that. I would like to see TCU find him a little bit more in that mid-post area because he's dangerous right there. He's so tough to handle with his size. Getting in the mid-post, squaring people up, pump fake, making people make decisions that close to the basket with that size, it's dangerous. So I'd like to see him a little bit doing that a little bit more. But
I totally agree. I think part of that comes back to spacing. Though, right? Because when you see that, Cork isn't really a stretch guy. Eddie Lampkin, when he's in there, isn't really a stretch guy. So it almost takes a smaller lineup for the Frogs where you put Jacoby Coles at that 5 spot where he's able to maybe pull his defender out of the way a little bit, because there have been times this season, we didn't see it as much tonight with Emmanuel because he didn't really have many opportunities, but there have been times this season where Emmanuel gets the ball in a good spot in the post, but it's easy to double because Cork's standing right there, or Eddie's standing right there. And so I wonder if part of the issue with Miles being out of the game is TCU spacing gets thrown off a little bit because you've got a different ball handler up top. Guys, I don't know. That's just me kind of freewheeling here. You're the guy that's played before.
No, I would agree. Totally, because with Miles out, the threat of scoring or the intimidation of scoring or shooting that three, because Miles will pull from deep as well. It goes away. So you're able to sink down and you're able to help off of him a little bit on the initial pass to that mid-post area. So I would agree for sure. He's just so dangerous right there. If we could run some things to get him a little bit freed up within that 15 to 17 area and let him work, it would be really dangerous.
I know there are really no such thing as moral victories, especially this time of season. But you have to be impressed with TCU's ability to come back from a loss like they had against Kansas State, where things just got out of control. They spiraled a little bit, and you could never dig out of that hole. To come back into a game like this where you knew you were still going to be without your top scorer and one of your big men down low, and really control the pace of the game and control the game for the bulk of it. That has to be something that you can build on moving forward, right?
100%. And it's hard to see that within the time frame that you just lost the game to the next game.
Sure.
How do you grasp that as far as moral victories and stuff like that? But I think what you do is you build on the foundation that kept you in the game, the rebounding, the sharing the ball, the defensive pressure too at times I think was relentless by the Frogs. So I think if you build upon that you're able to bounce yourself back next game. But two, I would say not very pretty games by the Frogs put together. I mean, K-State was kind of ugly. This game was kind of a grinder.
Yeah.
So I'd be interesting to see their morale next game, but it's possible. It's possible to bounce back and to come out the way that they did right now too. You got to admire that, as you said, because I mean, we've all lost games and it's all been hard. It's hard to get back and do it again. It's hard to get back on the horse again sometimes.
Yeah.
But you do it.
You have to.
Yeah.
Especially in this league where, you've heard Jamie Dixon say time and time again, you've heard Bob Huggins over at West Virginia say a couple times this year as well, that this conference right now, as it's constructed, is deeper and stronger and better than even those best Big East conferences.
Yeah, the ACC, all of them.
ACC, when those conferences were at their peak, the Big 12 right now is better than those conferences were.
And the thing I love about it too is it's physical. The Big 12 has this rap of being like a physical Southern conference, and I kind of like that. The ACC, just be playing that I played in the Big 12. I like that kind of mark, but the ACC is kind of known for being a little bit more skilled.
Okay.
As they say, but I would like to put that up to bat with the Big 12 this year because not only are they physical, they are very skilled at the guard position.
You think about the depth. You've got all of these kids at Kansas who are incredibly skilled and physical. TCU has, I think, really built their whole program on longer, more athletic,
big guards,
unafraid guards and wings.
Yeah,
guys that are not as flashy as other guys at times, but can score it at will and are not above getting really down in the dirt defensively. You talk about guys like Desmond Bain in the past, Kenrich Williams in the past, guys who kind of built, Brandon Parrish, even yourself, guys who built up that kind of reputation for this program. And we've seen it come to fruition time and time again. We saw it tonight for the bulk of the game. Again, just those final few minutes, I think guys got tired and really lost a step, especially defensively. We're going to take another quick break here on the Frogs Today postgame show. When we come back, we'll wrap up our analysis of TCU's 72-68 loss to the Baylor Bears.
This is Cowtown Headache Center, a neurology clinic that specializes in headache medicine. We offer standard oral medications, we offer trigger point injections, we offer multiple nerve blocks, we offer infusions both for prevention medication and for acute relief. My name is Andrew Levere. I'm a physician assistant that has a special certification from the National Headache Foundation in headache medicine. Patients are pretty shocked when I tell them we have tons of options for them and that we can do better than what they're doing. I don't just tell you, here's one medicine we're going to try. I'll give them options, and then ultimately we choose together as the provider and patient. It's very satisfying to know that we're changing people's lives.
Amrick Fields here on the Frogs Today post-game show live from Schollmaier Arena, where the Frogs come up short against the Baylor Bears 72-68. Amrick, we talked about it a little bit already, but what is, when you're in a losing streak like this where the Frogs have dropped 3 in a row now, how do you guys maintain a mentality moving forward to help you get out of that funk? What's the strategy to get out of that funk?
I don't know if there's just one strategy to be able to do it, but I think the key thing is to stay consistent on who you are and what got you the wins that you have. Building on that foundation and look upon the last games that you've lost and what you've done well, and keep doing those. Sometimes these cards don't fall where where you would like them to go, but at the same time, you still have to get the work to improve in those areas.
You think about what this team is capable of when it's at its best, when it's completely healthy. I think there's an opportunity for TCU fans here to maybe hit the panic button and start to freak out and really get concerned about this program.
Please don't do that.
But the reality is, don't do that.
Please don't hit the panic button.
There's no reason to hit the panic button, especially when you think about the fact that Mike Miles was a limited participant in practice for the last 2 days. Eddie Lampkin's going to be back hopefully at full strength by the middle of next week. And when these guys start to get healthy, we saw a couple guys get banged up today. Micah Peavy got a little bit banged up. Emmanuel Miller looked like he banged up his hip a little bit. Xavier Cork had a heating pad on his knee at halftime, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's healthy this time of year, but if they can maintain, like you said in pregame, 80% per person, 80% healthy, then this is a team that can make a deep run in the Big 12 tournament. They can absolutely make a deep run in the NCAA tournament and get to places that we haven't seen TCU basketball get before. So I don't think it's time to panic.
No.
At all, because this team has shown what they can do when they're at their best.
Yeah, and I think I'm a little biased being a TCU athlete, but I will say don't panic. And when we have all the pieces together, we look extremely scary. I mean, extremely scary. I've seen it all together, and I feel like it's the first time that I can look back and actually relax and say, wow, we have a Final Four team on the court. That looks like a Final Four team. That looks like the last 4 teams standing. Like, that could be one of those teams. That's how deep we are at those positions. So don't panic. We have some guys hurt. But I guarantee you no one wants to see us come Big 12 tournament time.
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not, because Mike's going to be healthy by then.
Yeah.
Eddie's going to be healthy by then.
Exactly.
And regardless of the other bumps and bruises that you've got, when TCU can get out in transition, when they can dominate on the rebounding and the defensive side of the court and get out in transition, get some easy baskets, Mike's hitting shots, guys are playing tough defense. This is a team that, like you said, they can do things the TCU basketball has not done before.
Yes.
Or done in a long time. You think back to that win over Kansas State here, coming back against Baylor in 17 or in Waco, down 17 to come back and win that basketball game. Wire to wire dominant win over Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse.
Yes.
And even in the midst of these losses recently, TCU had a chance to win against Mississippi State. They were leading late at Oklahoma State. They were leading late today, right? These aren't necessarily those kinds of losses that you look back on and say, wow, they never really had a chance.
No, not at all. And those are great points. So I think rebuilding your self-esteem going into the next game, collecting yourself, you think about all those things, you think about the close losses, and hey, even though we played a pretty bad game, we still had a chance to win this thing without some of our best players. So, I mean, I think that's kind of how you move forward.
Enough for the coaching staff to build on and still get after these guys about it so that they don't get complacent or too far down on themselves.
For sure.
It's all about kind of maintaining, I think, at this point and just getting healthy for TCU. So don't hit the panic button. Don't fret too much, Frog fans, because we've seen what this team is capable of when they're at full strength. And hopefully they will be at full strength again come Wednesday afternoon when they head up to Ames, Iowa to take on the Iowa State Cyclones. That is TCU's next game on the schedule. After that, they come back here to Schollmaier for a home game against Oklahoma State on Saturday. That game's at 1 p.m. And I'll say this, Amric, the crowd was great today. The students showed up. The fans were there in force, and especially in those final minutes, they were trying to will the Frogs to victory. TCU will need that for the rest of the home games here on out, is that ultimate fan support where people are showing up, they're getting loud, and they're getting rowdy.
Yeah, and I like to see them show up for this game. Obviously, it's kind of a rivalry game, but also to give them a little confidence going into Iowa. You're going into a very hostile environment in Iowa State, who hasn't lost a home game this year. The only team that hasn't.
Yeah.
So that is going to be extremely tough. So I like to see them get a little support right before they hit the road.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's always good to come out and support the Frogs. You can do that again, Frog fans, next Saturday when they take on Oklahoma State. For Emric Fields, I'm Jamie Plunkett. That's going to do it for the Frogs Today post-game show here at Schollmaier Arena. We'll see you for the pregame show ahead of that TCU-Oklahoma State matchup next Saturday at noon Central Time. So until then, make sure you're subscribed to Frogs Today on the YouTube channel and at frogstoday.com so you don't miss out on any of our TCU athletics content. We're the best in the business at this, and we're not afraid to say so. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button in both places. Again, for Amric Fields, I'm Jamie Plunkett. We'll see you next time.